Two chartered planes carrying 50 migrants arrived unannounced at Martha's Vineyard Wednesday, and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is claiming credit for sending them.
And it's just one example of what some have called an escalating game of political chess by Republican governors over border policy. Let's bring in Congressman Bill Keating, who represents Martha's Vineyard.
Thanks so much for being with us. So Governor DeSantis says that this was an effort to transport migrants to, quote, sanctuary destinations. But it is your belief that these migrants not only were not in Florida, but that there was no heads up. What was your reaction, and what message do you think Governor DeSantis is sending?
Well, first of all, good afternoon from Cape Cod, Janae and Witt. Yes, as the details begin to unfold about what actually happened, it's clear that the scheme that was funded through taxpayer dollars in Florida for a private jet that emanated with migrants that were in Texas is really casting some real legal scrutiny about what occurred. And for instance, these individuals were solicited on this jet by materials such as this, which are official-looking Massachusetts documents, but are indeed fraudulent, with a fake seal of the Commonwealth on it, and actually giving benefits for a program they're not qualified for. And furthermore, very cynically, you'll see on this panel that they were using local Martha's Vineyard religious institutions who had no knowledge about the use of this, no knowledge about what was taking place, to help lure these people on a private jet that was taking them to a destination they didn't consent to and didn't even know existed.
Are you saying that you think that officials had these fake flyers with false promises that they gave to these people to essentially lure them on a flight under false pretenses? Do you think that a crime happened here?
I think there's legal issues, both civil and possibly criminal, that will be looked at, where the individuals involved and the entities and the airlines that are involved might face some civil liability too. So there's real issues that are being discussed right now, both among colleagues of mine and locally. So that's one aspect as this really unfolds. We all know what was happening, and very obviously so, that these people were being used as political chattel or human cargo. These are human beings, just to advance what amounts to the seemingly unbridled political ambition of Governor DeSantis. And the good news in this story is this. As we're speaking, a transition is occurring from Martha's Vineyard to Cape Cod, to a joint base in Cape Cod, military base, where these people will have greater facilities and be able to deal with their legal and human needs going forward. So the rallying that occurred among locals and local officials on Martha's Vineyard, with the support of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and the governor's office, has been extraordinary.
Congressman, if I could jump in here, so I understand it made news on a couple fronts there, perhaps moving some of these migrants to a different location where they could be better cared for. But if we take the process out of this for a minute, of course, you've heard the criticism from Governor DeSantis and others who say that the Biden administration isn't doing enough to deal with the border crisis, and that other cities in the Northeast, like Martha's Vineyard and elsewhere, need to step up and do their part. What's your response to that?
Well, they certainly have done their part, but the issue is this. We have a broken immigration system. I was just in D.C. last evening, and it's not unique to right now. I think anyone listening to this knows that we've had a broken immigration system and border issues at least through the three presidents that I have been in Congress under. So this is not news. But what really is frustrating to people like myself, we have pushed forward legislation in the House side to the Senate where there's no action. We've tried to gather a consensus across the aisle to deal with this. Many of these issues are solvable. All it's taking is the political will to do it. The interference and having this being used as a wedge issue for political gain really stands in the way.
Don't both parties bear some of the blame for not being able to move the ball forward? I mean, you go back to Senator Ted Kennedy, Senator John McCain, that were proposing bipartisan legislation nearly 2 decades ago. That couldn't get the ball forward. Do you have any confidence that some solutions could be in play here?
Well, you know, I think the public is really going to be, I've seen these issues transform and move forward after the public weighs in. And if you look at some of the polling surrounding the dreamers, the children who came here not of their own decision making, those type of political issues are easily resolved going forward, and others are too. And so I think ultimately the will of the majority of the American people hopefully will provide an impetus to break this logjam.
What happens next? Do they just keep being shuffled around?
No, the next step is case management, and they also have an adjudicatory process back in Texas for most of these people. That's an important point, Janae, right there. They were required to appear in immigration courts probably in the next few days. By shifting them away from there, I know from listening to people on the ground, these people are frightened they won't be able to make that appearance. They want to conform to what the laws are here, and this being lured into these private jets and being taken to another is a fear that they have. One of the things we're working on is to making sure that they will be able to make true on that legal obligation. Actions and political stunts like this just take us backwards in that process.
Congressman Bill Keating, thank you so much for joining us on an incredibly important conversation that will be happening around the country today. We appreciate your time. Obviously, such a human toll in these stories.
Yeah, no question about it.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.